Hi, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Revealing Revelation studies, and we are on study number 19 right now. But don't let that stop you from listening, because this whole book ties in together and you may learn something you've never heard before. So, like I said, we're going to be doing study number 19. All the other studies are posted, so if there is more that you want to look into, feel free to look them all up. I will be going through all of them eventually, which will be 39 of them. So with that being said, let's do the thing that I normally do and tell you a little bit about the studies before I get started. They are from the book Revealing Revelation, This Is Your World. These are available on Amazon.com. We have book 1, which covers the 7 churches and the 7 seals. Book 2 covers the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls of wrath. I will be eventually combining them all into one book. Not sure how long that's going to take. I've got to do a few edits as I go along, because there are still some things I've noticed as I've studied through that need to be corrected. The littler ones I showed you are just generally for reading if you're already understanding the book of Revelation and just want another view to see if there's something maybe that you haven't learned yet. These ones are for more extensive study. You can either do your own personal study or even a group study in your church. They're a little bit bigger because they do have the questions at the end of each chapter. However, the content in every chapter is the same. These also are available on Amazon.com. I've kept the studies public domain, so if you are in a group and people don't feel like buying their own material, you can feel free to make any copies you want to. I've used also public domain scriptures when I've quoted, so even that is all public domain. The studies had originated in a Facebook group, which I still keep running. It's a place that I've added these videos to. All of the written studies are available in the Facebook group by the same name, Revealing Revelation, This Is Your World. So you can access them. They are not quite as edited, but still the same information. And anybody that's a member of Facebook can feel free to join that. Also, let's see. Oh, the quotes that I have that are from the book are from World English Bible, and that was one that I chose to use because I needed one that was public domain since I quoted so much scripture in my books. So it was modern English, which I liked, and it was public domain, so we could all use it. And I think that is all. So with that being said, let's get into study number 19. This is about the 4th trumpet, and it goes over just 2 scriptures of Revelation. Revelation chapter 8, verse 12 and verse 13. So let's get started first, just reading that scripture in Revelation. We're only going to read verse 12 right now because verse 12 is going over the 4th trumpet. So Revelation 8, verse 12. The 4th angel sounded, and 1/3 of the sun was struck, and 1/3 of the moon, and 1/3 of the stars, so that 1/3 of them would be darkened, and the day wouldn't shine for 1/3 of it, and the night in the same way. So we're going to do the same thing we did for these other studies for the past 3 in the trumpets. What are some of the things that we think of in the physical sense when we read that scripture about the 4th trumpet? What kind of things could be happening here on the earth that would cause something like this? So, as with the first 3 trumpets, one of the things that came to my mind exactly the same was war. It still sounds very warlike, just because there's so much devastation. And even like the thick smoke that's covering 1/3 of the earth could be caused from the bombs or whatever fighting that there would be in war. Also think of a volcano. Maybe the smoke from a volcano could cover that much of the sun and the moon and the stars. So maybe something like that. Could it be something that happens in the heavens? Something in in the sky. So something that would somehow block out the light of the heaven during a third of the day or a third of the night. So maybe something like that. What kind of things do you think of? Just ponder that for a little bit. If you're going to do a group with this video, pause it and ask the group what kind of things they're thinking of, maybe that I didn't mention. So now, after thinking about those things, we're going to do the same thing that we did in the other studies of the trumpets, the first three. We're going to look up some scriptures now, and the scriptures that have the key words. So what are some of the key words I want to look up in the fourth trumpet? I think the first one would be the 1/3. It was repeated over and over in this. And it kind of brings me back, reminding me of how Satan fell with 1/3 of his angels, which we discussed in an earlier study too. So the very next trumpet that we're going to be studying, we'll be seeing that there's a star falling from heaven, and that star has the key to the bottomless pit. We saw in the previous study a star falling from heaven as well. We're not going to go into the next trumpet now, but just keep that in mind because it was talking about a star falling from heaven. And this trumpet is surrounded with one previous and one next with the same type of thing. We also see in Luke 10:18, which we discussed in the last study, where Jesus had said that he saw Satan fallen like lightning. So could it have something to do with that? Another scripture that we're going to look up is Isaiah 14:12. I've quoted from the New King James Version in this one. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. So we see the nations involved here, and we see Lucifer falling with that one too. Later in Revelation, we're going to see how many angels fall with Satan. And that was in Revelation 12. We discussed it just a tiny bit in the last study, but we will get into it when we go to Revelation chapter 12. But Satan is falling, and he's pulling 1/3 of the angels with him. So we're not going to go into detail, but I do want to quote that one scripture or that little part of Revelation where this happens in Revelation 12, verses 3 and 4. We'll go into the greater detail of it when we get to the study of chapter 12 of Revelation. So Revelation 12, 3 and 4 states, another sign was seen in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns. And that discussed in that study was Satan. And 7 heads with 7 crowns. The tail drew 1/3 of the stars of the sky and threw them to the earth. So this is where we see that 1/3 is coming down with him. So what are some of the other words that we noticed in here? Most of the other scriptures that I looked up discussed all of the words together. They talked about the sun and the moon and the stars and the darkness all as a lump thing like this one does. So how can we learn more from his word about it? What does his word have to say on these things? We're going first to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 13, verses 9 through 13. Behold, the day of Yahweh comes, cruel, with wrath and fierce anger, to make the land a desolation, and to destroy its sinners out of it. For the stars of the sky and its constellations will not give their light. The sun will be darkened in its going out, and the moon will not cause its light to shine. I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. I will cause the arrogance of the proud to cease, and I will humble the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make people more rare than fine gold, even a person than the pure gold of Ophir. Therefore, I will make the heavens tremble, and the earth will be shaken out of its place in Yahweh of armies' wrath, and in the great day of his fierce anger. Wow. That little portion of Isaiah really says a lot. It brings this judgment here to our time period with the day of Yahweh, and this great judgment is worldwide. It brings to mind the destruction that I mentioned in the beginning of the study when I was contemplating what the fourth trumpet could mean in the physical sense. So it lets us know why this is happening, why this judgment is so extensive, is because it's against the whole evil world, against those that love their ways of iniquity. It's against the arrogant, and it's against the proud. It brings them low. So it makes me think of not only mankind, but also of those that have fallen with Satan. I couldn't help but think of a dear family member of mine. He is quite bothered with the world population being too high, and you might hear a lot of people say that. It's something that that is pushed in society, but it doesn't sound like something that would be an issue once this happens. Because when this trumpet's blown, it says that the people will become scarce because of this extensive judgment. The gold of Ophir was a special gold. It was something that was scarce. It wasn't just like everyday gold. So people are going to become scarce like that gold. So we can see that the judgment is very extensive. It covers the earth. And it also sounds like it's also an extreme judgment. So I'm sure that there are those who are here to see this, and they'll consider it very severe. And as we look at a few more scriptures that speak of the same time period, we will see that it is a severe judgment. Let's go to Joel chapter 3, and we're going to read verses 9 through 15. It says, "Proclaim this among the nations, prepare for war." Remember, I said something about war there, so it's saying it right here in the scripture. "Stir up the mighty men, let all the warriors draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Hurry and come, all you surrounding nations, and gather yourselves together." So here again we see the nations, the whole world. "Cause your mighty ones to come down there, Yahweh. Let the nations arouse themselves and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the surrounding nations. Put in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, tread, for the winepress is full, the vats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon are darkened, and the stars withdraw their shining." Right there in that verse, we can see that it is tying it to the same third trumpet verse that we just read. Or not third trumpet, I'm sorry, fourth trumpet verse that we just read. So the more I read the scriptures, the more vivid the picture becomes in my mind. Does it do the same in your mind? It sounds a lot like it is world war. The nations are gathered. They are called to war. So is this the third world war that they're talking of? We've already been through two of them, and our time period is the time period of the end where we have seen two world wars already. Another one, it sounds like, is coming. So whose side are you going to be on? And I don't mean which nation will you fight with. Are you for God, or are you on the other side? Are you with the arrogant and the wicked? Are you with the ones that are standing in opposition to God? Are you with the 1/3 of the angels and Satan who have fallen from heaven? Or are you with the other 2/3 of the angels that stand with God? and for God. When you see numbers like that, it kind of makes it obvious what side to be on. The odds are not in the favor of the enemy, obviously. Now in Matthew, Jesus tells us that it's immediately after the time of oppression that all of this stuff happens. We're going to go to the internet. It's not a scripture I quoted here. So I'm going to pull up BibleHub.com. It's Matthew 24, verse 29 that I'm going to read. And let's see. Let's read from the NIV. I'm at Bible Hub. It says, immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. So Jesus gave the same warning in Matthew when he was talking to the people there. So this also brings to mind the other three trumpets. They all sound like war on top of war. In the first trumpet, we saw people being judged. The people that were against Israel, they were judged. In the second trumpet, we saw a great nation fall. And in the third trumpet, we saw a kind of bitterness or a poisoning of the waters, which could have been the people, the church specifically. And now we're seeing something that, again, it looks like world war. In Ezekiel 32:7, it speaks of the heavens being covered and that the stars are dark. I would suggest that you take time to read the whole chapter. We're not going to do it here because of time, but it talks of many nations and it has references from the first four trumpets. It describes war and judgment. And like I said, it's too much to quote here. So for time's sake, we're not going to read it. I would like to read specifically Ezekiel 32:7. But if you're in a group doing a study or watching this video by yourself, take a little time to pause and contemplate it and discuss it as a group. So let's go to the web and read Ezekiel 32:7. Again, I'm at Bible Hub, and this time I'm going to read from New Living Translation. When I blot you out, I will veil the heavens and darken the stars. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon will not give its light. So there's where Ezekiel 32 is being drawn into this time period that is also in Revelation chapter 8 with the fourth trumpet. But like I said, if you get a chance to read that whole chapter, Ezekiel 32, I do recommend it. Now, before we end the study here, I do need to finish chapter 8 of Revelation. Again, I said I was going to read the two scriptures. This little portion, it's another large transition point, not only in the book of Revelation, but in our world as well. So we're going to end with Revelation chapter 8, verse 13. And it says, I saw and I heard an eagle flying in mid-heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe for those who dwell on the earth, because of the other voices of the trumpets of the three angels who are yet to sound. So we can see from this warning that when we move into chapter 9, we're going to be discussing things that can even be scarier than the past chapters of Revelation that we've studied so far. So, as in all of these studies, I stress the importance of a very close relationship with our Messiah, Jesus Christ. The times will be scary if our focus isn't on him. Whether we're believers that are here for any of this, or if we're not, it's not even relevant if our trust is in him. There's many that believe that we'll be out of here by this point. I don't hold to that, but it doesn't mean that we're not brothers and sisters. It doesn't mean that we can't study together. If you know these things and you're wrong, you will understand. If I know these things and I'm wrong, it doesn't hurt. because maybe I've been able to teach it to somebody else that will be here. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant. Our relationship is relevant. But one of the things I do tell people, some people don't want to study the book of Revelation because they think it's scary. But like I said, if you're trusting in him, it's not. But anyways, in Revelation at the very end of the book, it's beautiful. It tells the end of the picture, and it's awesome. So if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed when you're studying this stuff, go to the end and read it and come back so you can still understand. Understand that the outcome of all this is great. It's wonderful. It's what we're all going through this for. To get to the end, we have to get through what comes before that. So put that into your heart too. If you have to keep going back to the end to get through the middle of it, do it. It's beautiful. Like I said, I can't wait to get to the end of the study it. It's good things in store for us, and just awesome, amazing. It's what we're all working for. It's our blessed hope. It's the prize. So think of it this way also, that when we're doing these things, when we're doing these studies, like I said earlier, we're not just putting it into our hearts for ourselves alone. When we understand what's happening and we are firm in the scriptures and what Christ has taught here, then we don't become overwhelmed. But it also gives us the opportunity to help people around us that haven't put that time in. We can be there and turn their eyes to the hope of Christ, to the hope of God, and to the end of the story, to the fact that this isn't it. It's not over. The world is not ending. Jesus Christ is coming back, and we get to be a part of it. It's not too late. So we have work to do now. We'll have work to do later. All of this is something that we can help other people, not just ourselves, with. So let me make sure I didn't miss anything, because this is about it for this study. I think that's it. So that's it for trumpet number 4. Like I said, read earlier in the last part of this chapter, we're heading into the next 3 trumpets, which are different. They're woes. So we're going into some even scarier stuff. It said, woe, woe, woe. And as we go into this, we're going to have several chapters which include things like the beast government, the 2 witnesses, Satan falling from heaven, that Revelation chapter 12 I've been talking about. We will see all of the culmination of what is going on here in the next 3 trumpets. And it is big, it is huge, and it can be scary if you only focus on that. So with that being said, may God bless you with hope, love, and peace as you continue on learning about the book of Revelation and his hope for you. God bless all of you.